welcome. My name is Keely Hancock. I know some of you, which is brilliant. I'm Operations Manager at Coventry and Warwickshire Chamber of Commerce, and I'm joined here today by all of you. It's brilliant to see mentors, mentees, our guest of honour, our sponsor on this really important day, International Women's Day 2021. So before I sort of kick off, I just do a bit of Zoom etiquette, really. We're going to miss that, aren't we, when we get back into the real world, I think. There won't be this Zoom etiquette, but Chris has put you all on mute. So if anybody's not on mute, if you could just pop yourself on mute so that we can focus on our presenters. And also Chris is going to be recording today's session, because I know that I've had some mentors and mentees and unfortunately not able to join us, so we are going to record the session. So I hope that's okay with you all, but if any of you at any point want to turn your camera off, that's absolutely fine as well. So we're here on International Women's Day 2021. It's a brilliant day, a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. As a woman in business myself, I feel privileged to be a lead on this programme, 21 in 21. I feel passionate about providing opportunity, providing a voice and celebrating the successes of women in business. Indeed, this programme is born out of our successful Women in Business network, and we thought really fitting to choose today as the official launch. Coventry and Warwickshire Chamber of Commerce has developed this programme to celebrate and champion the successes of women in business, to foster entrepreneurialism and professional development amongst aspiring women, to provide an opportunity for women in business to learn from the successes and expertise and knowledge of some of our most successful business women across the region, and to share learning across this next 12 months so that we can further develop our Women in Business programme. So today is the start of that journey. After an overwhelming response to our call for mentees, we were able to whittle it down to our final cohort. It really was a difficult decision. We had some amazing applications, and as I say, it's so lovely to see you all here today and to be able to now put some faces to names. So mentees and mentors have been matched. First email introductions have taken place. And really today is the first of that opportunity to start forming those important relationships. And I'm sure some of you are now seeing each other after you've exchanged emails last week. So that's lovely. So why mentoring really? What was the thing that drew us to that as a way to move this, this important network forward? There's been many studies and evaluations conducted on the impact, value and benefits of mentoring. These include exposure to new ideas and new ways of thinking, advice on developing strengths and overcoming weaknesses, and really it's about guiding and helping your mentee with their professional development and advancing their career. Research shows the impact of mentoring can be even more significant, with some studies quoting that 70% of small businesses that receive mentoring survive more than 5 years, double the survival rate of non-mentored businesses. Employees with a mentor at work are 5 times more likely to get a pay rise or a promotion than an employee without a mentor. So quite startling actually when I looked at that research and those figures. A mentor can help their mentee with confidence, clarity and understanding their financial worth in the workplace. We know that when it comes to elevating women in business, including gender parity in leadership and equal pay for equal work, there's more progress to be made. But in showcasing Coventry and Warwickshire women, you here today, successful business owners, expert in your field, chief executives, directors, senior managers across the public, private and voluntary sector, indeed the best of the best, we have the opportunity to guide and support each other and overcome some of these barriers. So before I hand over to our sponsor, I just wanted to highlight some thoughts from you, from our mentors this far. Chris, I don't know whether you could flash up a couple of slides for me. Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks, Chris. So this was some responses I had from our mentors over the last couple of weeks. And It truly inspired me, and I really hope it resonates with you too. Things like don't be scared to take risks. You should be the leading lady of your own life. Ignore that imposter syndrome. Chris, if you could flip to the next slide. Hard work, honesty, transparency and trust will always stand you in good stead. Dream big and procrastinate less. As I say, really inspiring thoughts, and already seeing the dialogue between you as mentors and mentees, it's already showing a level of excitement, drive, passion, and really that's what today is, that start of that journey. So on to today. Firstly, can I introduce our sponsor, the West Midland Reserve Forces and Cadets Association. Supporting the Chamber's Women in Business Network is something they have done for many years now. We've all seen the amazing work our armed forces have undertaken to support the efforts to combat COVID-19, and many of their reserves and cadets have been involved in delivering that support. We're delighted this afternoon to be joined by Chief Executive of the West Midlands Reserve Forces and Cadets Association, Colonel Richard Maybury, and the Head of Engagement, Simon Butt, to give us an overview of the work of the association and explain why it is important to them to support initiatives like 21 in 21. Richard and Simon, over to you.
Great, Keely, thank you very much, and a really good afternoon to everybody. It's really nice to see so many of you this afternoon. As Keely said, my name is Richard Maybury. I'm Chief Exec of the West Midlands Reserve Forces and Cadets Association, and I just wanted to spend a very few minutes explaining to you, really giving you a bit of background as to who we are and what we do, and then why it is that we're interested in sponsoring this program. So I'm just going to share my screen. I promise you I haven't got many PowerPoint slides, far less than 10. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that. So some of you will have heard of the Reserve Forces Cadets Association, although I suspect many of you will have not. What are we, and what do we do? Well, as it says on the screen there, we are a not-for-profit organisation. We've got both a full-time staff and the professional salaried staff and a voluntary membership as well. So full-time, we've got about 60 people, in terms of our voluntary membership, about 170 or so, and that includes a voluntary board as well, to whom I answer. And there are 13 regionally based Reserve Forces and Cadets Association covering the whole of the UK. We are independent of the military chain of command. A lot of people think that we run the reserves and cadets, but actually we do not. We are there purely to support them, and that's what we're funded to do. And our funding all comes from the Ministry of Defence and from the 3 single services, and that is principally to deliver management of all the reserve and cadet estate across the West Midlands. We conduct an awful lot of engagement, and part of our involvement in this programme is exactly that, with various stakeholders across the West Midlands, and we support the MOD's cadets and youth programmes specifically as well. So just a few words really on each of those 3 outputs. So in terms of the estate, we actually look after about 170 sites across the West Midlands altogether, ranging from sort of more complex sites like the Army Reserve Centre that you can see at the top left there in Canley, in Coventry, down to things like the Cadet Weekend Training Centres, where the cadets can go and train on a weekend, and those centres can take about 100 cadets at a time. The top right there is the sort of traditional, very sort of simple Army Cadet and Air Cadet hut. We look after those as well. And then the bottom right there, the Joint Cadet Centre, which houses both Army Cadets and Air Cadets together in Warwick. And as I say, about 170 sites, 400 odd buildings across the West Midlands that we look after. And our role really is to keep those places safe and compliant, for the cadets and for the reserves to use. And when the single services give us any money, then we'll project manage development of those sites. In terms of the reserves, you can see that this slide just shows all of the reserve units that there are all the way around the West Midlands. Predominantly in the West Midlands, the footprint is Army Reserve units, but there's also a Naval Reserve unit located right in the middle of Birmingham. Strangely, a really good recruiting area for the Royal Navy is the Midlands. And over in Shropshire as well, we've got a Royal Air Force Auxiliary Reserve unit as well. And within Coventry and Warwickshire, there are 3 or 4 reserve units. In terms of cadets, there are lots of cadets. Reserves, there are about 2,500 across the West Midlands. Cadets, there are about 12,000. Supported by some 1,600 Cadet Force adult volunteers. Within Coventry and Warwickshire itself, probably 700 or 800 cadets from Sea Cadets, Army Cadets, Air Cadets, and the school-based combined cadet forces as well. And I mentioned the Cadet Force adult volunteers. They are the adults that actually deliver the training for cadets. Just like reservists, they've got civilian jobs as well, and they really are, the Cadet Force adult volunteers, incredibly selfless people. They give up 2 nights a week, probably 1 weekend a month, and 2 weeks of their annual holiday as well to deliver the cadet camps in the summer. It is a fantastic organisation for the cadets, and well proven to be a tremendous mobility escalator as well. And they are, by and large, very well funded by the MOD, and in particular the Army Cadets and the Air Cadets. And then our third principal output is engagement, and underpinned by communications. And when I say engagement, it's really advocacy for the reserves and the cadets, and trying to persuade people why employing reserves and cadets and Cadet Force adult volunteers is a good idea, the sort of benefits those people could bring back to your organisation. But it's not just now reserves and cadets that we're advocating for, it's really the wider armed forces family as well, because I think Defence have found that if they use us to assist with their engagement, very often it's easier to engage through an organisation or an association like ourselves than it is to directly engage sometimes. And we therefore engage with community groups, with local authorities, with the education and youth sector, and so on and so forth. And the basis of a lot of our negotiation is the Armed Forces Covenant, which is enshrined in law, and that's really the agreement between the nation and the armed forces that says that no member of the armed forces nor their families will be disadvantaged by dint of their service. So that's kind of what who we are and what it is that we deliver. I'm going to hand you over to Simon Button in a moment, who's our head of engagement, and she'll explain to you a little bit more about why it is that we want to support this programme. But what I hope you'll find throughout the programme is that in the reserves and the cadets, there are lots of role models, and hopefully you'll get to meet some of them, individuals who've got successful careers in the reserves or in supporting the cadets, but equally have got very successful careers as civilians as well. And of course, those successful people include lots of females, probably not as many as the armed forces would like, but there are certainly some really great and plenty of really great examples out there. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Simon, and I shall stop screen sharing.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As you heard, my name is Saima, and I head the engagement team for the West Midlands Reserve Forces and Cadets Association. The West Midlands RFCA, we strongly believe in female leadership, and we recognise the unique skills that women can bring to the workforce. In fact, if we are taking a look at the armed forces itself, as of 1st of October 2020, we have 11% female representation in the regular forces and 15% female representation in the reserves, and a total intake of 12.2% into the combined UK regular and reserve forces. Now, This is a figure we're aware that this, we are looking to constantly increase this figure, and hence we're looking to work with female groups to raise awareness of the opportunities inherent in the armed forces. We're also supportive of ideas that are put forward in a 2018 Deloitte research paper that promoted gender diversity in the workplace, particularly on the shop floor and in the boardroom. And it suggested that female mentorship was an effective way to address this. I therefore feel that the 21 in 21 programme, which is piloted by Coventry and Warwickshire Chambers, is an important part of this whole process, and it's a step towards ensuring that we have the bright female leaders of tomorrow. That's one of the reasons why we're so proud to be sponsoring this initiative. In engaging with yourselves, we are not only looking to raise awareness of the Armed Forces Covenant and to highlight how employers can partner with Defence, we'll also be looking to provide inspirational military speakers who will be speaking at webinars, and also to provide articles to the Chambers on key aspects of leadership and development that will help support yourselves and your mentees as well. That's all I really have to say. I don't have a long presentation. So thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you so much, Richard and Simon, and lots to pick up on. I know last time we met, I was overwhelmed by the breadth and the numbers and the range of activities that you get involved with, and also Simon, hearing around some of the work that we can be doing over the next 12 months surrounding leadership. It's really, really exciting. So it's lovely to see you again today, and I know that we're going to be working together over the coming year. So welcome and thank you. So on to our guest of honour, and why we're here today, really, to meet each other, but to also have time to spend with our guest of honour. We're joined by Baroness McGregor-Smith, CBE. McGregor-Smith joined Mighty as Group Financial Director in 2002 and was promoted to CEO in 2007. She was the only Asian female Chief Executive of a FTSE 250 company. Oh, I think somebody's just on. That's it. In 2007, McGregor-Smith was named First Woman of Business Services at the Real Business CBI First Women Awards. In the 2012 New Year's Honour, McGregor-Smith was appointed a Commander of the Order of British Empire for services to business and diversity in business. In April 2013, she was made Non-Executive Director to the Board of Department for Culture, Media and Sport. In 2015, she was nominated to be a life peer in the UK House of Lords and was created Baroness McGregor-Smith of Sunninghill in the Royal County of Berkshire. She was appointed by the then Business Secretary, Sajid Javid, to voluntarily lead a review looking at the issues faced by businesses in developing Black and minority ethnic talents. Her report, Race in the Workplace, the McGregor-Smith Review, was published in February 2017 and found the UK growth was being curtailed by more than 24 billion due to poor practices. It has led to a step change in action by the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy in this area. In March 2020, McGregor-Smith was elected as the President of the British Chambers of Commerce. And we're delighted today on International Women's Day to welcome you, Ruby, to Coventry and Warwickshire, albeit virtually. And it's such a shame that we're not all seeing each other and having a nice lunch and a cup of coffee and sitting in comfy chairs, but this is just as good, actually, because it's so lovely to see you, and thank you ever so much for taking time to join us today. I know I've got lots to ask you, and I suppose it's a spotlight on you, really. I've got a series of questions, and then there might be some series of questions from the floor as well, so hopefully we've got a little bit of time at the end as well to have Q&A from our audience. So I don't know whether you want me to kick off with some questions, or is there something you wanted to just say first, Ruby?
Oh no, look, thanks for the intro, and it's a real pleasure to be here today to meet everybody. And I really wish we could be together in person, because I don't know about all of you, but I'm truly over this pandemic and being at home. So I hope I'll be able to get to see you all in the future. But no, Keely, kick off. Let's start talking.
Brilliant, thank you so much. So I think I gave you a little bit of an overview, didn't I? Gosh, and it was so many achievements and so much you've achieved. It's amazing. But can you give us an insight into your life and career and how you've got to where you are today?
Well, yeah, it's not a particularly traditional or very normal story, but in summary, I guess I came here to the UK when I was 2 with my parents. They didn't really come here with anything. Dad came to build a better life for me and also ultimately for my sisters. And I grew up in North London and ended up doing economics at university and then doing chartered accountancy. I don't know if there are any accountants on the call. It was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do. God, those exams were awful. And after I qualified, I went into industry. Now, I decided, unlike many of my friends, to join a very fast growing, not very well known group at the time. Lots of my friends were going to big brands and I thought, no, do you know what? It doesn't really appeal to me. And I met a group of people I really liked at what was a very small company at the time called Serco, which is today a very big global outsourcer. But at the time, I joined it 4 years after floating, and it was really small. And we were, I recall having worked in central London where I qualified with BDO. I was then suddenly in some warehouse in the back of Sunbury-on-Thames with no windows, wondering how on earth I'd ended up here. But that was the beginning of my career in what was then defence outsourcing. And I then worked in outsourcing. I've worked in outsourcing for most of my career. And having been there for 9 years, for all of you who are on the call who've got children or may one day have children, having kids probably changed everything again for me, because I had a very big global role with them. The chief exec really very much believed in promoting young people very, very quickly. And so I was doing very big responsible roles there in my early 30s. And then I found myself having children and trying to do a global role and doing all the juggling that was quite frankly horrific. And so I stopped for a couple of years, did some work part-time, and then joined Mighty as CFO. And you've told everybody else the rest. But yes, I became CEO in 2007. But the thing is, about the scheme that you've launched, and the reason mentoring is so important is I wouldn't have got to where I got to without the influence of 3 really key people. The first is my chief executive at Serco, who told me I could be whatever I wanted to be, which nobody ever told me before. I certainly didn't get told that when I was working in the accounting profession. And then secondly, I think the chairman and chief exec at Mighty, who saw me as someone who they said had all the talent but never run a public company, so they had to teach me how to run a public company, and who also kept saying to me, you'll be okay, the kids will get older, you will get through the worst of the sleepless nights, we give you our word, it does get better, which I really needed to do because I became CFO when they were 4 and 6, and let me tell you, I remember driving to a board meeting on no sleep. It was just not great. So having been through all of that, but for David and Ian, David Telly and Ian Stewart, who started Mighty, I think they, more than anything, gave me the confidence to carry on. And while I was a chief executive, Ian spoke to me pretty much every week, still did, just reminded me of things I'd done well and maybe things I hadn't done quite so well. But actually, I had a great team and great support to help me through every part of my career. And that's why I think mentoring is so critical. It's something I've always really advocated, and sponsoring, because you really, really need that support. We all do. It's pretty lonely building a career.
Oh, and just hearing that story in Serco, I bet we're all sitting on this call thinking, wow, we all know Serco through so many different areas. And as you say, it starts off a small company.
You wouldn't have known it when I was at it. It was I was there for 9 years. It was like 80 million of revenues and I joined, and about $1 billion when I left. And so, I saw it when it was in its very early days. And many of I've still got really many, and because we all work really closely together, many of my mates are still from those early days. It's quite a small industry in that respect, but no, it was great fun. And I was one of the only females, so they were always great to me.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. I think you picked up on a few of the things. You talked about challenges in terms of having young children and building that career. What other things have you faced in terms of challenges? Anything that you've overcome, and you can reflect back and you're thinking about those days of how you've overcome your challenges?
Look, I think I remember how hard it was trying to qualify as an accountant. That was bad enough. I think for me, there were a few personal ones. There's probably a few professional ones. Personally, growing up in the UK within a very strict Muslim background was really tough, especially when I told my parents I was going to marry someone who was very English, blonde and blue-eyed, but we got through that, and they were fine in the end. So that was a particularly difficult phase, and I think it builds, you know, you have to kind of really try and survive those things when you've got big family conflict. And then in my career, I think it was very much around that phase of having children. You know, I hats off to those that find it all very straightforward and easy. For me, it was really tough. And I think it's good to be honest about the things you do find difficult. And I admire, you know, mums and dads I meet, I admire all their own individual stories. Mine was, it was really hard. And when my little boy was born, 2 years after my girl, he was really, really ill when he was born. And that was quite a big kind of life-changing moment for me, because we didn't know if he would live. And actually you just begin to sit there and go, what on earth is the point of all this? So I had found it quite a torrid time when they were very small. And I think I'm not good at no sleep, so that was probably the worst of it. But actually, it was that whole adjustment of trying to realise you could still have a career. Now today, all these years later, we've got more mentoring, we've got more support. More women are staying on for longer. But when I was doing this, very few were. Well, most of my mates were stopping, and so you didn't have a network of females to talk to at all. There was the odd one here and there scattered who you were hoping were going to do the same sort of thing as you, but we didn't have networks, we didn't have any of that at all. So you couldn't talk through all those really basic issues, such as, is it just me who's finding this really hard to cope? And thank goodness we're being more open in the workplace about these issues. And look at the pandemic and the mental health challenges. At least we now would talk about it. 20 years ago, nobody wanted to talk about anything. And the problem with that is, you know, men and women in the workplace face big challenges which need to be supported through them. But for me, it was no different to so many other people. It was juggling a family and running a footsie business. What a complete nightmare. With all due respect, you know, there was never a moment in any day when it ever felt easy. Look, it was great fun and I love what I do, but there were times when it was very, very hard. But I'm sure everyone must say that. And if they don't say it, that is the truth. Right? There is no it's all easy plain sailing for anyone, however successful they look, whatever awards they win. Behind all of that is just a lot of fragile people still trying to juggle and make it work.
And do you think this past year with the pandemic, do you think that has had an impact more on women than men, or do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, there's research out there that's saying women are more likely to have been furloughed and more likely to have taken the lion's share of the homeschooling. My team know I'm very excited today that the children have gone back. My children have gone back. I did a dance in the kitchen. Do you think it has put the agenda back, and what we've you know, how far we've come in these last few years?
Look, we've got a long way to go, haven't we? I mean, everyone kept thinking we were doing all right till the pandemic. We weren't. We're not doing all right, and we're not going to do all right for a while. There's some big issues out there. I think with the pandemic, you've got whole industries have been shut down. You know, I'm spending every day trying to fight to get industries opened up and get the roadmap delivered to get British businesses back to where they need to get back to. The challenge you've got is, you're absolutely right on the stats. More women have been furloughed. More women are doing more of the bulk of the homeschooling. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's the facts of it. But before this, the gender pay gap data shows you what a horrific situation we're in. There's nothing acceptable about large gender pay gaps anymore. You know, they're saying in Britain that the gender pay gap won't get shut till 2043, and that was before the pandemic. And apparently it's going to take 2 centuries globally. Since when was any of that acceptable? None of it's acceptable. And so I think we've got to go much bolder, much faster on supporting those that felt they were left behind before this pandemic, but then work even harder on the disaffected groups during this pandemic. So I would say anyone with a workplace disadvantage around gender, around race, around disability, around age, okay, and other challenges will have really struggled, and we've got to really fight to make sure that they regain the ground as quickly as they can. it's not going to be easy, but I think we've got to do it. I mean, the reason I'm so passionate about diversity in the workplace is because, quite frankly, I had too many years when no one like me I ever got to meet. And I was like, you know, is it really just me and a group of men who look nothing like me that I'll always have to work with? I crave just working with people that are more diverse, because I think that's really good for business. And I think we're all going to have to keep fighting that. And you know, men and women are going to have to make sure we get better equality in the workplace for future generations. It's just not good enough.
Thank you. I mean, I think that leads on to one of the questions that we touched on, the pandemic, and the government's looking at managing the end of the EU transition. But importantly, the government has placed this important emphasis on the levelling up agenda to address inequality, some of the issues that you've been touching upon there. What are your hopes and aspirations for the future of equality in the UK?
Oh, look, we've got to get on with this levelling up agenda. I've been really staggered by how much disadvantage you see in different parts of the UK. And we've got to have public policy devised and spend devised to make sure we get that. Because until we get that levelling up really in, until we get better investment into parts of the country that just haven't had it in the last 20 to 30 years, we're not going to get the change we want to see from so many different groups of individuals. You know, why should it be that depending on where you grow up actually will end up dictating your life chances in Britain? Why, you know, you should be able to live anywhere in Britain and be able to access the best opportunities, and currently people can't do that. So I really back that agenda, but we need to get on with it, and we need to get on with it quickly and get investment out. You know, the Build Back Better piece, the big infrastructure projects, which I massively back. We just need to get on with it now and create really brilliant job opportunities. Because look, I succeeded because I joined a growing sector and an industry that wanted to promote but really train you, because there was huge levels of opportunity in it. That's where I think women can do really, really well coming out of this, is work in the industries that can really give you not the support, but also the promotions and the continually brilliant experience, and throw yourself in at the deep end and go for every promotion you can take with those organisations, because that's what really helps you develop.
Thank you. I suppose it's leading into what we're here for today, is around our Women in Business network, and across the UK, Chambers of Commerce deliver Women in Business networks of all shapes, sizes. They all look different, they all take on different flavours. But why do you think these networks are so important?
Look, I think it's really important to share ideas, share challenges, so you realise you're not on your own. It's important to feel part of a group of people that you can learn from as well. So I think networks are really important, and also they're not always easy to do. And I don't know about all of you, but I rarely had time to do breakfasts or dinners. You know, thank God we got a few. At least one thing I hope will carry on with some of the virtual events, which might fit into people's lives a bit in an easier way, because actually, you know, we shouldn't be rushing in and staying out really late just to network. We need to find other ways to do it. People, you know, quite frankly, need to see their families and see their mates in the evening. They don't need to just be thinking about networking at work. So I'm hoping at least we'll find some different ways of doing it, but it's really, really important, because I think it also gives you a whole group of people who you can grow up in business with. You know, many of the people I work with at Serco and they're Mighty, we grew up together, running businesses, working in businesses, sharing ideas. That's what you can achieve within your networks. And I think that's incredibly important, especially if you come from different sectors, because you can meet the most incredible people who can give you a very different perspective on what you can be.
So touching a bit on that work-life balance, and I can see there's chats coming through as well, which is great, and we'll have a chance to have a look at that as well. But at the British Chambers of Commerce, we see a great example of how Hannah Essex and Claire Walker, co-executive directors, operate a highly effective job share arrangements, allowing them that work-life balance. Do you think we should be seeing more of this type of arrangement championed across UK workplaces?
Yeah, look, I think it's fantastic. Good on Hannah and Claire. They've done a brilliant job of making it work. It's been brilliant for the chambers as well to have them both. And the more we can do those sorts of things, the better. You know, I think it should be quite standard. I'm kind of really You know, for me, the more flex we have, the different ways people want to work. Do any of us mind as long as we achieve the output? No. So I'm a real advocate of that, because especially if you do feel that you want to have time out for whatever reasons, it's a great way to still stay massively involved.
And what do you think, as women, what skills do you feel are our biggest asset in the workplace?
Oh, well, look, I think guys and girls both have lots of different skills and assets, you know. I always say that because I've got a daughter and a son. And I always have to remember I've got to think about my boy as well as my girl. But I think women, they bring a different dimension because they are different. They think differently, okay? I would say in some cases, you see more EQ, okay? There is more of and I think that really matters. I think I see a lot of women in the workplace who are really great on people, really good on the people issues, the people challenges, which you need in every organization. But also, I think I've met some brilliant women entrepreneurs. You know, I think we shouldn't underestimate our ability to be incredible entrepreneurs as well. And I think do you know what? They're just as willing to take risks. They're just as smart. They're just as able. I don't think, when I judge myself to any guy in the workplace, I don't think about our differences. I think about how we're all the same. I really, really do, because I think part of the challenge on this whole debate about the skills of women in the workplace and the skills of men is they don't just have to be complementary. In many cases, they are the same and they can achieve exactly the same. Yeah.
And I think when I looked through, I mean, as I say, we had an overwhelming response for this programme. But interestingly, when I was reflecting to Chris, it was about half and half. Half were entrepreneurs on this call that have started their own business, and some great stories, a real variety of sectors and a variety of things that they wanted from the programme. And then we've got half of the cohort that are aspiring leaders within an existing SME or within the public sector, again, different sizes, different levels, but of an employee. And that's going to be really interesting through this programme, as you say, and we're supporting more and more women entrepreneurs in our business support programme. I think last time I looked at our caseload, I think we had 70% of our inquiries and the people we were supporting were women in business. And I know that those numbers are going up and up, especially in time of economic recession. If you can start a business and get it sustainable in this period, they're the most successful businesses. So it's such an exciting time, actually, challenging, but to be starting a business and be an entrepreneur. So yes, it's very exciting. So I've got a couple more questions before I probably take it out to the floor, really. But we're delighted to be joined by Dr. Isabella Moore, and I have seen her face on the screen. She was our first female president of the British Chambers of Commerce, and I don't know whether she can give us a wave, but Isabella's been a real significant part of Coventry and Warwickshire Chamber of Commerce for some years, and it's brilliant. She's one of our mentors with us. I know when we were on the start of the call, you've had a strange year, Ruby, that you took up this role in March, and we've had one hell of a year. But what do you want to achieve in your term as president of the British Chambers of Commerce?
Yeah, no, well, thank you for that question. I certainly wasn't expecting to be doing this in the pandemic. You know, hey, we are where we are. I want us to be the most innovative business group and known for being the best and most innovative business group in the UK. So I think we are, but I think we can really showcase the talent we've really got in an even bigger way. Because if you think about the influence we've had on public policy in the last year, it's opened my eyes to what the strength of the Chambers can do. There is no other business network that can give you on the ground feedback on any policy the UK government wants to take. Almost immediately, to understand the impact, to help write the policies, to help really guide on saying what would work and doesn't work. And also, as we start to come out of this, how do we really, really, really come out and be bolder and better as business than we ever have been before? Because there's going to be, despite the challenges, there's going to be some great opportunities as well. So I, for one, just want to make sure that I spearhead that continued growth and understanding and influence as we come out of the UK pandemic. And I want everyone to say, no, that's the business group we all need to be part of.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you. And I'm certainly proud to be part of it. And I know the team are, and Chris here today as well. So my final question, as our mentees are about to embark on their 12-month mentoring programme, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for them?
Don't take yourselves too seriously. Always right. Don't get disheartened if it doesn't all go right. That's normal, you know, we all get a kick in the head occasionally. But just accept it for what it is. And then finally, have some real, you know, have a love and passion for what you're going to do. Because I certainly found in my career, I'm only good at the things I'm really passionate about. Can I give 4, by the way? I'll give 1
yes, do.
And my final piece is work for people who are going to promote and support you. Too many people and organisations get held back, not because they're not good, but because they're not working for the right people. It's really important to work for the right people and the right organisation, and that are going to really push you and really support your talent. Because if you've got that, okay, that's a lot easier than banging your head against a brick wall of people who don't support you. But no, you know, just have an amazing year, right? Thrive and love it for what it's going to be, which is a great opportunity to meet so many really interesting people and really learn through the experience of it.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. That's so insightful, and it gives me such inspiration, Ruby. So thank you for answering my questions. I'm sure that some of the audience have got some questions of their own, and I don't know whether people wanted to, oh, this is where we want to be, in a lovely room and people put their hand up and you, instead of using the technology that we've got. But does anybody want to chip in for any questions for Ruby this afternoon? And you can use the hand function or just wave at me. And Chris, can you help me with this? Anybody got anything? Oh, I can see Isabella. Can you take yourself off mute, Isabella?
Yes.
Perfect.
Hi, I couldn't find the chat. I couldn't find down below where you actually raise your hand.
Oh, well, that's what I mean. I'm not very good at that either, Isabella. So just wave at me, anybody.
Well, I just wanted to say, Ruby, that was absolutely, and you know, great to hear from you. And when I took this, really many years ago now, I even want to think about how many years ago it was. But what I enjoyed, I enjoyed traveling around the chamber network and meeting all the people, and you realise how powerful the chamber network is. The of chambers were, and this was at a time, and many of you won't even remember it, when Patricia Hughes, I think it was a very impactful report about the state of women in business in the United Kingdom, and that was sort of spearheaded a lot of activity in the next. We were twice less likely to set business than our male counterparts. The things that I remember as president of the British Chambers of Commerce, you also participated in the European Chambers of Commerce network, which I'm not sure whether the BCC will now not be a member of. But at a conference in Italy, when there were activity for the spouses, the number of times I was still pushed into that was participating in house activities, and anybody ever really could quite believe that there were British Chambers of Commerce. The situation has changed quite considerably since then. And my question, I'm sorry, I've as many as Keely and Chris know, I've recently been researching as part of a doctoral thesis on older women in business. And, you know, the statistics show very clearly that in this last year that over 50 have been first in the queue to lose their jobs. And the situation is not going to move. And I just want to flag up that when we look, and you mentioned age as an issue, that I am to feel that sometimes the sort of 50 plus are not because of any bad intentions, but it's just that there's so many other priorities that we need just to flag up. There is this group of women who have extraordinary skills and experience that you know, feel that they're somehow excluded, and that we need to support them. And perhaps you might like to comment about that.
You know, and thank you, Isabel. You're absolutely right. You really are right. We need to make sure that we maximise the skills of everybody in the workplace, and every piece of the female group. When I was chairing the Women's Business Council, we asked for an older woman's champion. And there's nothing wrong with being an older woman. I think I now fall into this category of being one of the older women. The reality is that we absolutely need to champion their expertise and in support and growth of the UK economy. And I think this is going to become a bigger issue because people are having to work for a lot longer, you know, a lot longer. So if you're going to have to work for a lot longer, it means, why can't you start businesses when you're older? Why can't you do, you know, for many women who couldn't start things when they were younger because they had big family responsibilities, this is the time to start to do it. So I would like to see some more initiatives around this for older workers in the UK, from reskilling, starting their own businesses. You know, my mum is still in her early 80s, but still running something, you know, and okay, maybe that's not for everybody, but actually I think it's a great thing to be able to do. So I think the more we can do, the better.
Oh, thank you. That's great. And thanks, Isabella, for the question as well. I think we've got a question from Sharon Redrobe.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. About the not quite the gender pay gap, but women catching up on boards or in senior positions, and the stats that we see about it'll take another 200 years if we have to wait for organic change, which is clearly far too late for everyone. We could be living on Mars by then. So I just wonder what the fix is, Ruby, and great to hear from you. And now you're in a position of power, perhaps in the House of Lords. Do you think legislation is needed now to bash it through? And I know people won't like it to start with, and quotas are horrible, and we'll have the whole argument about who's the best candidate. But if we want to get to that society change, is that the answer?
You know, and thank you very much for that, Sharon. That's a really good question. I've never been a fan of quotas. And I think I've never been a fan of quotas because I've never found them easy to justify in terms of, well, you know, how can I say you're going to get the right person for the right job if you do it on a quota basis? I find that quite a difficult concept. But what I would say is I think we should set ourselves a target date by which we can do things on an organic basis. Because if we can't do it organically by a certain point, then we should start to look at it. Because it's not till we really push for that I think we're going to get some of the changes we want. It's just not acceptable to me to see the top of business not being 50-50 anymore. It really isn't. I mean, there's not a day goes by where it's still acceptable. And this isn't about non-executive roles as well. This is about executive roles. What I'm worried about more than anything in the pandemic is the pipeline of women coming through in executive roles is not shown to be increasing at the moment. Not helped by the fact that many senior women are working in industries that are completely shut down right now, completely shut down, and are going to have some time having to, you know, when you take a look at the hospitality industry alone, okay, a lot of women work in the hospitality industry. And quite frankly, at the moment, you know, who knows where we're going to be on that in a year. One of the areas I'm a chair in is aviation. Lots of women work in aviation, but, you know, again, it's shut down right now. So we've got a challenge about the industries opening up. But I think let's just give ourselves maximum 2 years. If it's not significantly better, we should be demanding quotas. And I've only started saying that recently, always having been a real, not sure it's right. Actually, when I sit and look at the stats, I go, you're right. If we want to see real change in our lifetimes, for our families, for the next generations, we're the ones that are going to have to push that change. So yes, I think you're going to find I'm going to be advocating that more and more.
Thank you, Ruby. I did have a comment on the chat from Catherine Clark. Catherine's one of our board members, and I know I asked the question about pieces of advice for our mentees. Have you got any advice for our mentors, some of which have mentored before and some of whom are new to mentoring? So is there any sort of pearls of wisdom for them?
You know, I do a little bit of mentoring, and it's I would say be great at listening is one of my big advice on mentoring. Help whoever you're mentoring formulate a plan, whatever the plan is for whatever you're going to talk about, because there needs to be, the big thing I worry about with sometimes mentoring is make sure you've got some defined output and make sure you can deliver something really credible by the end of your time together. You know, I think it's a really two-way piece. I think it's just as important for the mentor to make sure not only that they get something out of it, but they actually deliver something for the mentee, whatever that may be. And if you think of so many of the things that are being done at the moment, you know, I was talking to somebody recently about, you know, just making sure that we understand how sustainability is really going to impact business in the next decade. Think through this you know, the net carbon zero recovery economy. What does that really mean? Getting ahead on digital and AI in a way others aren't, you know, getting yourself to have some real competitive advantage in the skill base you have. All of those things can be done really well with mentees to say, look, you know, even think you're really brilliant and you're really great, there's lots of people like you. What's your differentiators that's going to give you the next piece of success in anything you go for? So there's lots of things, but it's really just to be someone that could be a great sounding board but offer really great advice.
Thank you. I'm gonna pick on my chief executive now, but Louise Bennett's here, and I just wanted to ask Louise. Sorry, she's shaking her head and probably going to give me daggers, but I just wanted to sort of give Louise Bennett as my chief executive, who's given me lots of opportunities and you know, really pushes me forward in my career. But is there anything, Louise, that you'd like to add to this really fantastic event that we've got today?
I think first to say huge thank you, Ruby, for being here today with us. A big well done to Keely and to Chris and the team, the Chamber team. Isabella will know this, she's been close to Chambers for many years. Just a huge well done to the team for the initiative 21 in 21. I love it. Very flattered to be one of your mentors. I hope I could do a good job. Hello, Lucy. I put a face to the name. And interestingly, just this morning, I was with Shanine, City of Culture, and Shanine had organised something through the City of Culture that was a celebration of International Women's Day. And we explored how women are really, really good, because we're resilient, really, really good at starting again. And there was something about that in terms of not a campaign, but a campaign, some messaging, certainly to our young women, about that whole belief in yourself to start again. And as we go through the many changes that we go through as women and women leaders, that we are so good at starting again where we need to. And it could be, as Isabella alluded to, that we get into our older age, as I am, and we think about what we want to do with the rest of our lives. It could be that we've just gone through motherhood and we, you know, we wanted to better balance work and home life, but then we're ready to start again. And it was just a lovely theme amongst other themes that came out of the meeting that Shanine held this morning. So yeah, start again, you know, is a really good message for women. But yeah, really pleased to be a mentor, having had a very interesting career over 30 plus years. Am I allowed to say this on this call? Probably not, but and having worked in some very, very male dominated industries and environments. So yeah, I hope I can bring lots of thought, advice and support to all of you. Thanks, Keely.
Thanks, Louise. Thank you.
Sorry.
No,
it's okay.
naughty of me, but I'm conscious that we've only got a couple of minutes left. And I'm going to give myself a proud pat on my back that I've chaired today within time, which is good, because I know, as we've all said, we're all busy, and probably some of us are about to go on another call and then another call and another call before the day has finished. But actually, it's been brilliant that you've all taken time out today. I want to say a massive thank you to Ruby for joining us today. It has been truly inspirational, and I think we probably could have chatted lots longer, because I'm sure there's lots more that I could ask you and we could all learn from you. So thank you ever so much for coming along today. Thank you to our sponsors as well, Richard and Simon. I've got a couple of hands up, but I don't know whether I might ask Chris to help interject in, but thanks to Richard and Simon for giving us some information as well, and such a good presentation. And thank you to Chris as well for helping me with the technicals of today. And as I say, as we approach throughout the next 12 months, I'm hoping we can all get together and have a coffee and some cakes and actually have some of these meetings face to face. But in the meantime, there will be lots going on over the next few months while we're still in this bizarre world. So I know that we'll all be working together. So yeah, it was just a final thanks from me, and yeah, we'll take care, and I'll see you, I'm sure, very soon.